Welcome, everyone. I have Leanne Simpson here with me today. Hey, Leanne.
Hey Amy, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm really keen to dive in today. I've brought you on to talk a little bit about you and your business and what you've been up to. We've been working together for a little while, and so this is almost like a part one of the journey because business is just that thing that's ever evolving. There's no cap on things, right? So there's always things to learn, always things to do. But you've made some incredible progress in your business lately, and I would love to dive into that and talk a little bit about that. And also, the work that you do is really important, and so I want more people to know about that as well. So, just for people that are coming across you for the first time, can you give us a little insight in terms of who you are and who you help?
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, it has been a whirlwind, but it's been a really great adventure working with you so far. So I'm looking forward to part two as well. In terms of who I work with leaders who don't ordinarily deal with crisis on the day-to-day basis. And I work with them to build their capability and capacity to lead better when they wind up in a complex situation, dealing with high stakes problems that might be in their business. And the reason I work with those sorts of leaders is because over the course of my emergency services and emergency management career, I saw a lot of leaders put into situations that they weren't really well equipped to deal with. Wasn't part of their position description, but they wind up in front of the camera or on the radio call or actually leading a response to something that was unexpected. So that's who I work with, and they can be from all sorts of different organisations really and businesses, oftentimes adjacent to the emergency services, but provide support in some way when there's a disaster that impacts their local community.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really important work that you do, like I said. And I think it's so important because it's one of those things that until you're in that situation, you kind of only recognize at that point whether you've got the skills or not to deal with it. And it's much better to be prepared and know that you can handle different situations than go into something, completely blind. There's
Yeah.
very high stakes situations that you've been involved in your career as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about getting people before they're actually put in front of the situation wherever possible, but equally I'm able to support them when they've found themselves in that situation as well. So yeah, much better to be prepared, but if you're caught out in some way, I can absolutely help in that setting as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think it's just been sort of a natural evolution, Leanne, in terms of the business that you run versus the experience that you've had to date. So can you share a little bit around like what's your journey been in terms of your career and your decision to actually go out there and be in your own coaching and consulting business? What was that decision like for you first and foremost, and how did that come about?
It's a long story there, but I'll try to keep it short. I mean, I've done 20 plus years in the emergency services and emergency management. I've been lucky enough to work in the traditional services, but then I also went into transport, public safety, and more recently into not-for-profit as well. So I've done a lot of really great executive level roles.
Yeah.
I found myself in 2020, I moved out of a government role for a little while and I played with going out and consulting in my own right. But then COVID happened, so I wound up back in the system. But it's always been in the back of my head to do something independently. And the more I've learned about myself and the way I can best support others, I really came to the conclusion that being outside of the system and working back in was a good way for me to add value. So last year, I really got serious about it and I came across you and the tribe.
Yeah.
Sort of midway through the year, I had a couple of touch points with you, Amy, one through a pre-record that you'd done for IECL, the coaching organisation. And then I came and did your 5-day Get Clients program as well.
Yeah.
And that kind of set me on the path. So over the course of that, particularly last year, the clarity around what I wanted to do and who I wanted to support got stronger and stronger. And through working with you and the Aligned Tribe, that has been reinforced even further.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. And how did you feel going into like stepping into the shoes of business owner, having had this extensive career? So it wasn't like you were, starting in a completely different industry or a completely different field. You were taking your experience and what you'd had in that, 20 plus years and just working in a different way. But how did it feel making that transition out to working in your own business?
A bit discombobulating. So, big word for big
Yeah.
feelings. Yes, for somebody who's used to working in pretty high stakes environments,
Mm.
you're stepping out of your comfort zone. I guess what I realized was that I had the skill sets
Mm.
and I needed to apply them in a different way, which is something that I work with my leaders on as well.
Yeah.
They often have the skill sets that they need to be successful. They just haven't thought about using them differently. So I was going through that transition myself.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a roller coaster. There's days where you think you're really nailing it, and then there's days where you think, what the heck?
What have I done?
And what have I done? When you're starting out as well, there's so much going on, and there's
Mm.
so much advice, and there's so much information about what you should be doing. And, starting with your line tribe, for me at least, really narrowed my focus. It gave me much more strategic approach, which is my happy place anyway, to actually chipping away at building the business in the background. And that was something I was also really keen to do. So a lot of the work that I've done at the executive level has actually been going into organisations that have grown very fast, and haven't had strong foundations.
Mm.
So from a practical point of view, one of the commitments I made to myself as I was stepping into this space was that I wanted really strong foundations, so that when things got busy, I wasn't scrambling to put things into place and have systems that supported me.
Mm, mm. I love that. And I think, as you mentioned, there's so much going on, at the start, from taking it as like a
Yeah.
idea on a napkin or a piece of paper or something you've been ruminating on for so many years in your career, to then actually making it happen, getting paid what you know your expertise is worth, and having that trust with new clients and people in a new way. So I love that you've taken that leap and you've dived in with both feet, which is awesome to see. And obviously we've worked together and we've built those foundations. And so can you share a little bit more around, like, as you look ahead in the business, what are you excited about over the next, say, 12 months or so?
Well, I am offering a portfolio of services, so I'm really excited about the opportunity to build each of those out a little bit more. I'm sort of starting to get the basics there, and just at a really basic level, I'm excited about seeing where this can go. I think it would be fair to say when I first started having conversations with your team, Amy, I was probably thinking a little bit small. I've got my eye on a much bigger prize now than what I had imagined even 12 months ago. And I am also looking forward to being in the position that, I can bring some support in to actually help with some of the things that I'm doing in the background as well. I like your philosophy around, finding the balance between work and life, because that's really important. And I can see that I will be, hopefully by the time we have our next conversation, I will be at the stage where I'm starting to implement some of those support mechanisms as well.
Yeah. Oh, you will be. Trust me.
I'm banking on it.
We've got a plan for you, Leanne. But that's awesome. I think it's something that when you're in it and you can see how things start to evolve, then you can start to see the next step and the next step and the next step kind of reveals itself. And the worst thing you can do is kind of sit back and ruminate on things and not take any action. And then it becomes this huge, big, black cloud over your head, if you like, with all the potential problems and all the potential things that are probably going to stop you, or all the negative things. But I love the fact that you've dived in. You've been implementing like a mad thing, which is great. What we love. And you're getting the results, which is awesome. So can you share a couple of things that, there'll be people listening to this that might resonate with some of your thinking, Leanne, around wanting to start their own thing, maybe just really not sure how to take those first steps and, really get the momentum rolling. So I'd love to hear from you. What have been 2 or 3 really impactful things that have helped you get clients in your own right, in your own business, and really start to build that momentum?
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned it before, the structure. A structure has been really important. You're big on focusing on the one thing that's the right thing to do here and now, and that has been enormously helpful to cut down the noise. So that is the first thing. The second thing is getting comfortable with the iteration and experimenting with what works and what's resonating with your audience. That the process of producing content and posting online. That was all pretty, I'd done a bit of that in the past, but I've got a much more structured way of doing it now. And again, seeing what works, what people gravitate towards, and then sort of leaning into that a little bit more has been really useful as well. In the time since we've been working together, which is about 6 months now, I guess, I pulled some stats for you because you know I'm a nerd.
I love this.
So I am going to read a little bit because I pulled the stats. So I've doubled my connections since I first joined, and that is probably a bit slower than most of your clients. Part of that was because the people I work with are a little hard to find because they don't have the descriptor in their PD that says that they might need somebody like me.
Yep.
So it's taken me a little bit longer to build those connections and find the right way of reaching out to people and getting their attention. The other stat that I'll share with you that I think's really impressive.
Yeah.
But in the last 12 weeks, I've had 25,000 impressions on my posts, 800 engagements, and 650 profile views. That's with just doing the structure that you've outlined, being consistent with it, and playing around with, the types of content that I'm putting up, around building credibility, building connections, and, building towards that conversion, goal. So, for me, those are really, I'm very proud of those stats.
Yeah, I'm really proud of you too. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. The other thing that I'm finding is that because I've continually reiterated, and refine the connection requests that I'm putting out, the acceptance of those is pretty high. So I'm getting really good buy-in from people wanting to join my community. I'm building my audience, and that's really powerful in its own right.
Yeah.
So I think last thing that I would say in terms of how the Aligned Tribe has helped me is exactly that. It's the community, being part of a network of people who are all at different stages, but all got similar values, similar goals. It's been really, really helpful, and not being on your own doing it. And just having visibility of the people who have gone ahead of you and what they've achieved. That's been brilliant. And it's kind of nice to have every Wednesday a bit of a cheer squad.
Yeah.
To just check in on what other people are doing, be part of celebrating their successes and have that reciprocated as well. It's a nice vibe.
Yeah, and that's awesome to hear. And I think, business can be really lonely. And that's why we created the community, because, you need other people a lot of the time to add different perspective and lift you up on a bad day and all of those sorts of things that happen, because we're all human and we're all heading in the same direction, and we grow way faster together. So I absolutely love that. And I love hearing a few of the things that you've shared, Leanne, because this is a whole new Leanne to when we first connected, when we first spoke, because I know, and this is for a lot of people I speak to as well, it can feel a little bit intimidating to first get on LinkedIn and, start to put yourself out there and start to think about, okay, well, I'm not just underneath this organization brand anymore, and I can't kind of lean on that reputation. I'm in my own reputation, and I'm bringing that to the party. So for you, what was a couple of things that really helped you in terms of starting to share a little bit more on LinkedIn and getting these great results in terms of the impression and the community that you're building?
Yeah, well, I think really fundamentally it was just ripping the band-aid off and getting out of my own way as much as anything. At the end of the day, you have a profile, people want to get to know the person behind it, and I probably hadn't grasped that strongly enough. And it's fascinating to see what people are actually interested in, because things that I've thought would go nowhere are actually what people have tapped into more strongly. So that desire to connect is universal. And if you can find the right way to do that, you've struck gold. But from my point of view, getting out of my own way, firstly, setting up a system and, defining what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to be putting out there. And then just, again, comes back to a bit of structure and a commitment to myself to actually do it as well. And, so I'm pretty basic. I do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing. You'll pretty much always find me. There's been a couple of times where I've missed it for whatever reason. But that consistency over time starts to, it supports algorithms and all that sort of thing. But of course, it's actually supporting the engagement from their community. And I have actually, interestingly, found when I've missed something, I've had people reach out and say, hey, you okay? Why weren't you here today?
Yeah.
Because they get to see, that little bit of you at a particular time. They come to kind of expect it, which is also kind of nice because that's a real piece of evidence around people wanting to engage. So those three things I think have been really key for me.
Yeah, perfect. And I think what I love about your approach, Leanne, and your business in a whole as well, is that you know exactly the kind of clients that you want to work with, and you're really clear on that. And as you said earlier, they're not very easy to find. Like they're not super obvious, right, on the platform. Like some people you can look up and you can see in their job title, or you can see things and then you go, oh, that looks like them. I can go and reach out. But as you said, like this is about building community and your reputation online, and it's really kind of snowballing from there. And the right kinds of people are actually coming to find you, and you're also being able to find them as well. But there's a two-way approach to this as well. So bringing the right people into your world, and then when you see someone online, you can identify them really quickly around if they're going to be the right match for you as well. So I'd love to hear, like, from your experience of, having people reach out to you on LinkedIn, and I know you've landed your first client through LinkedIn as well. And so tell me a little bit around like what that felt like and what was that process like for you?
Well, the first time, as a new business owner, it's daunting having that whole conversation of engagement and actually talking money. I mean, my corporate career, others did that sort of thing. I occasionally needed to do it, but sales hasn't been something that has featured in my career. And it's also been something that I, have a bit of a negative attachment to, but through the work that and the approach that you take, and this is part of the reason I joined the Align Tribe as well. You're really focused on building the relationship as opposed to selling to somebody, and that sits well with me. And I think that has made that first conversation a whole lot easier, and it's made subsequent conversations much easier as well. Number one, I've gotten to the point where I'm much more pragmatic about, this is my value, this is what I offer, and this is what I can support you with. And equally, it is centered on the relationship. It's not the transaction as such that becomes the central part of the conversation. And I like that. It works for me. And I think it's less intimidating for people as well on the receiving end for it. There's not that same level of pressure. It's a softer approach, which in my circumstances, again, if I'm working with people who have got themselves into a situation that's a bit sticky, they've got enough on their plate at that stage without it being a difficult conversation to have.
Yeah. I love that. And I think it goes back to, what we were saying before around really knowing your market and understanding like the right kinds of conversations to have with your market, because not all clients are created equal, not all markets are created equal as well. And so having those nuances of knowing exactly what to say at the right time, in the right order, is sort of giving you that process and that flow, which feels good for you and feels natural. You don't do the hard pitch slap approach on LinkedIn like so many others do. And so it's really nice to see that you've implemented that really well. You're landing clients through it, and it's only just getting started. So I love that.
Yep, just getting started. Yeah.
Perfect. So if there was someone that's like listening to this and they're kind of on the fence, either about maybe making the leap into their own business if they've been thinking about it for a long time, or about working with us, like if they're sort of on the fence about either of those things, like what would you say to them? What would be your advice?
Well, couple of things there. If you're sitting on the fence about it, take the leap. Honestly, take the leap. If you're somebody who is coachable, make sure you've got the support around you and take those opportunities. You and the Align Tribe and the way it's structured and works has worked really, really well for me. And, if you're serious about building a sustainable, value-based business as a coach or a consultant, this is a really great fit. And the structured playbook and the community, the support, all of those elements of it, will stretch you beyond your comfort zone and push you before you're ready, which I think is really, really helpful because you can get stuck in your own head. So, if you're sitting on the fence, it's it's a Nike moment. Just do it, get on with it.
I love that.
And I guess don't be afraid to fail, but do it fast and get on with the next iteration. It is all just a big experiment, and that's part of the fun, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. How we think about failure in business is very different. How we would have interpreted that in our corporate careers or anything as well. It's good to experiment. It's good to try new things in business and get out of your comfort zone, as you say. And yeah, we obviously love working with you, Leanne. I've absolutely loved just seeing your business grow to date from, this kind of just
idea. Idea
and kind of speculation about, oh, could this be a thing?
Yeah.
And then now, fast forward only a few months, you're in business, you're legitimate with what you do, you're working with clients, you're supporting people and growing your community online. You've obviously received a really good return from the program, which is great, and what we already want to see happen really early, and that's happened for you. And now it's just all kind of momentum and growth from here. So I'm really excited for what's happening in the next 12 months or so for you in the business and beyond. What are some of the things that you kind of got on your bucket list for the long-term vision of the business? Like 5 years from now, where will we see Leanne and the business?
Ruling the world. Not quite. 5 years. So I guess one of my principles is that leave a business better off than when I arrived. And I'm certainly not there to embed myself. So that means that I want a really healthy pipeline of clients to work with. My ideal vision is that they're coming to me because of really great recommendations and referrals, and that I am covering the bases where I'm challenged in my work. I'm working across a variety of organisations, and they're all getting really exceptional value. So that's as simple as it gets at the moment for the 5-year vision. Except one last thing, and that is I want to get to the point where my husband's a shift worker, so he gets 10 weeks a year leave, and I want to match that. I would hope I'll do that well before 5-year mark. So
yeah. Absolutely, because there's lots of levers we can pull in the business, right? And we talked about lifestyle and leverage and a few things like that as well.
Yes.
And the LinkedIn, component kind of gets you there, and then we focus on the lifestyle and the leverage. So I love that for you. Totally achievable, by the way. already have this plan in place for you. So now it's just a matter of getting it done. And I know you're one to get it done. So it's awesome.
Yep. Thanks, Amy. I really appreciate it. It's been good chatting to you today.
Thank you so much for being really open, sharing your journey to date in the business. And I know we're only just getting started. There's lots more to come from you as well. So I'm really looking forward to part 2 of this conversation. But there might be people that are listening to this who have found themselves either in crisis situations before or want to be prepared for if that happens to them as well, for their leaders and their organizations. So where can they go and find you? Where can they connect with you and learn more?
Well, that's a really easy one, isn't it? LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Find me on LinkedIn. A personal page there has all my contact details. I'm very happy to if people either message me there or book a call with me.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Leanne. Appreciate your time today, and let's get back into it. Let's get stuck into that 5-year vision.
Sounds good to me. Thanks, Amy.